Welcome to my kitchen. Here today, I'm going to go through how I prepare my meals for the trail. I have some dietary restrictions, and I'll give you a little bit of history about how I overcame those and what that means for me in backpacking. And make sure you stick around for the end for a pretty funny story. I thought that as I got older, the hardest thing about hiking would be the aches and the pains, but it was actually the food. Well, when I was in my 30s, even 20s, I would eat anything and everything and never really thought about the nutritional part of the food. It wasn't until I was getting into my 40s that it was starting to be an issue, just with stomach problems and that kind of stuff. So I wanted to really tackle that and find out what was causing those issues and just to feel better so I could go out and hike and be able to enjoy the great outdoors. In order to help with my food issues, I started cutting out different foods, things like dairy, and that really helped a lot, although I really miss cheese and ice cream. I was still having some issues, although it was a lot better, so I then cut out enriched wheats, as well as onion and some different spices. So my food is a lot more plain than it used to be. You know, I can get out, I can adventure, I can still enjoy some pretty awesome meals with a more simpler diet. So I used to eat a lot of packaged meals like Mountain House and Peak, and they're excellent. They're really tasty, but it was really messing with my stomach. It's hard to find packaged meals without dairy in them. Dairy is such a big part of our diet. So, and also they have a lot of enrichment in them too. And I get it, you know, that's what our process is for making these kind of meals, to do that in a cost-effective way. But it just wasn't working for me, so I decided to make my own meals. I'm not saying not to buy Mountain House. It's really great, it's convenient. If it's for you, then go for it. This is just an alternative and something I really enjoy, and I just want to share it with all of you. So I love being out in the wild, and really making my own food has allowed me to be out into the wild longer days without having stomach issues, be comfortable, and to be able to enjoy it. Because let's be honest, if you're on the trail with stomach problems, you're not going to have a good time. So also making my own food has two other parts that I really enjoy. First is the aspect of creation. I love to be able to create things. I'm an engineer by trade, so engineering things is just a lot of fun, and being a photographer lets me create. And it's also very cost effective too. I mean, we generally cook our meals at home, and I can take what's left over, dehydrate it, and make it into a meal. Now, I'm still early on in this process, and I'm sure there's things that I could be doing better. So if you have any tips, I invite you to let me know in the comments of ways that you go about preparing your own food. I'd love to hear about them. So on dehydrating my food and selecting what ingredients I want to use, I use things that say like organic on them, because they're generally not going to have the enrichment, but it's just what works for me, whatever works for you. So with that, I have different types of flour that I make things with, and rice too. I found that instant rice is enriched, and it just doesn't agree with me. Once you figure out something that works for you, stick with it. If it makes you happy, it makes you feel better, then, you know, go with it. For my meals, I basically just make food, and then whatever is left over goes into my dehydrator, and then I dehydrate it per whatever the booklet says. This is lasagna. I had some gluten-free lasagna noodles that I used, and then just regular sauce, like a sensitive Rouse marinara is what I use. And then I put some sausages in here too, some Italian sausage. And then the other one I'm gonna try is pancakes and bacon and sausage. So I just dehydrated sausage pieces and then some pancakes, chopped steak with mushrooms and dried carrots. So one thing I did with this one, which I'm probably gonna change, is I chopped up the meat and the potatoes into like smaller pieces. And I think what I actually do is shred them. And then for seasoning, I use just salt and pepper. One thing I did learn, I'm gonna try, is to measure the weight of the food after cooking it before I dehydrate it. So I know how much water was in it and how much water I can put back into it. For some of my favorite meals, this one's been my best one so far. This is just lasagna. And I had this one when I did section 1 and 2 of the Colorado Trail, and that video will be coming out soon. I think this one's gonna be excellent too, because pancakes are just amazing, and bacon is it's bacon.
Bacon!
And then on dehydration, there's different ways to do it. It depends on what you're dehydrating, but most of my stuff is pretty like dense, like meats or breads. So especially with meats, with the fat that's in it, you want to start it off at a high temperature. So basically all the way up on max on this thing, which is 160 degrees for like the first 6, 7, 8 hours. And then I bring it back down to about 130. That just really gets a lot of the moisture out of the food to start with and keeps the bacteria from growing when you're into the food. Now, I'm by no means a nutrition or a dehydration expert. I haven't gotten sick yet, but definitely do your own research, and I'm just showing you my method. I opted just to store one type of meal in each of these. These are called Smelly proof heavy duty flexible reusable storage bags. Instead of doing like smaller bags and having one meal per bag, I just have one meal type in each bag. Then what I do is I take a portion of this that I want out of here and I put it into another one of these bags, and then I pour the water into it, and then I eat out of it. So really the biggest thing you can do to keep everything lightweight is take the water out of your food. I use the dehydrator. You can do freeze drying as well. I haven't explored any of that because that's pretty costly to do. Since I'm making my own food, I pretty much know what I've made. I'm not making these in huge amounts of quantities where I would need to label these, but you could write right on here with a Sharpie and know that it's steak and potatoes or a stew or what have you. But I know that this is my stew, I know this is my lasagna, and I know this is my pancakes, just because I made them and I know what they are. So you don't have to be really that diligent about your smells if you want a bear to join you for your meals, or if you want to become a meal yourself. Of course, I'm only joking. Take care of your smells. Don't be bear food.
Please don't be bear food.
So to keep smells down, the first thing, like I was talking about, are these heavy duty plastic bags, which is not going to completely get rid of the smells. So a practice that I follow is I just eat further away from my tent, just so that the animals don't come up to my tent if I were to accidentally drop a piece of food on the ground. Try to not do that, but things happen. And then with these bags, I also put them into, I use a Ursack, and it's just bear resistant. It's pretty tough to break into it, but that just ropes closed, and then I throw that up into a tree using a rope and keep the smells away from my campsite. Once you've got your food all dehydrated and packed and you're out on the trail, then how do you prepare this so you can eat? So you can do, there's 2 methods, 3 maybe that I know of. There's cold soaking, there's hot soaking, and then you can actually cook it and simmer it into in your pan. I don't do cold soaking. I'm not really too comfortable with it because you're soaking your food in cooler water, and I think that bacteria would have a chance to grow. I do hot soaking, which has its own risks too, but this is what I do to mitigate it. So I get my portion out from my meal of what I want to have into an empty sack, and then I would pour hot water into it and close it all up, and then keep that, like if I have a jacket on, keep it in my jacket so that it stays warm. I want it to stay at 140 degrees and above to keep the bacteria from growing. You can also simmer it in your pot too, which I've done that before too, and you just rinse out the pot afterwards. So once you've got your water into your food that you're rehydrating, it can take like 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, depending on what you're rehydrating. If you have like regular rice, that can take a while, 20 to 30 minutes to really rehydrate. But store it into like a cap, store it inside your jacket while you're hiking. Your body heat will help to keep it warm. And then the last thing to really consider is how to plan what you want to cook when. I like to cook at camp in the mornings and then in the evenings. So I'll boil my water in the morning as I wake up from my camp, put my water into my food, rehydrate it, and then I'll go and hike for sometimes an hour even. I'll hike for that long before I get refueled up. I don't necessarily like to eat first thing when I wake up. And then when I get to camp in the evening, I'll set up my camp, get everything ready, get my shelter first, and then I'll cook my meal, put that into my meal, and then finish maybe some more little details for the camp. Like maybe I'll do my tent, get that set up, and throw my sleeping bag and my sleep system into the tent, and then I'll make my food, boil my water, get it into the thing, and then let that sit over to the side while I blow up my air mattress and let that rehydrate. I use a Ursack. So you can use a bear-proof canister or a Ursack. Ursacks are not allowed in a lot of the national parks. Before you go, just check the rules and regulations for the park and the place you want to go for which sack to use. So I just want to show you real quick how much food you can really get in here. This is not all the food that I'm going to be taking, but it's probably a good 80% of the food, a couple more meals yet to do. But I have like a chicken and rice and then the other 3 I was talking about. So this is a good amount of food and there's a lot of rice in here. So pack this one into here, pack all these other ones into here. And I just make sure I get as much air out of here as possible so that it'll be nice and compact, just like so. And now that's, about 80% full for the Ursack. I don't know, there's still a good amount of room in here. I can take my hand, shove it down into here. So something simple like, I don't know, these are just some freeze-dried bananas that I got from a while ago, and can stuff that right into there. And then this will compact down to a pretty good size, and this basically will fit in the whole top of my pack. Say this weighs about 3 pounds, maybe 4. That's all of the food right there. That's basically all my meals, how I prep everything. I use this stove here to actually cook my meals, and then I dehydrate it here, pack it in here, rehydrate it here with the water boiled from my little stove. I hope that you really enjoy making your own meals, and if you haven't wanted to try that, you give it a go. This is a lot of fun, I really enjoy it, and I hope you do too. So just a couple of funny stories too, and what I used to do. My first backpacking trip, it was in the Upper Peninsula in Michigan, and before my wife and I were married, we did part of the North Coast Trail in the Upper Peninsula in Pictured Rocks. It was like 30 or 40 miles. And I had a pack that was just way too heavy. It was like 50 or 60 pounds. I had MREs in it, and I thought that would be the way to go, but those MREs are just so expensive because there's so much water in them. MREs are meals ready to eat, in case you don't know. So anyway, that was my first experience with backpacking and meals and carrying just a ton of weight. We're at the end of this video of filming this one, and I just gotta say my stomach is really rumbling because I'm super hungry right now too. On that Michigan backpacking adventure, with all those MREs and the food and all the stuff that I was eating and carrying all this weight, burning a ton of calories, I didn't go to the bathroom, number 2, the entire time until the last day. And it just came on super fast, and I had no chance to go except for off into the trail. I couldn't even dig a cat hole, and I just had to go right through there. There was flies everywhere. It was really not a good experience. So I hope that preparing your own meals or finding the right meal for you will allow you to be able to enjoy your entire backpacking experience. So this is the reason I tell that story, because it's gross, but it's real. It's authentic. It happens. And that really stopped me from wanting to backpack, of having food like that, having all this weight, and finding the right way to do it. So find your way. This way works for me, making food my way. I really enjoy it, and it allows me to have a good time when I'm backpacking, and all sense of aspects of backpacking in the backcountry.